Thank you. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
Okay. Here we go. I was 16 years old and highly pissed off. My flatmate James had been invading my privacy again. As if stealing my food and laundry powder wasn't enough, he'd graduated to accidentally opening my mail. The flatting thing was very new to me. At 16, I thought I could handle life independently after yet another argument with my father. He wanted me to pay $100 a week board, which was fair enough, but for the same price, I could go flatting and not have the drama of answering to someone who criticised my friends and berated my so-called lack of direction. So I moved out of home. I worked full-time at a local bakery/cafe. I performed the usual duties, serving customers, cleaning dishes, heating new food, making the odd sandwich and coffee. The job itself was okay, but my boss was a prick. He was the kind of man who shouldn't be a boss. His name was Bill, and he was well into his 60s when I started working for him. He was permanently angry, likely due to years of baking from 2 till 10 a.m. And in the year that I worked there, I never once saw him smile. He grunted instead of speaking, and a culture of intimidation and fear ruled the bakery. My workmates and I were terrified of him, and an angry outburst of his could bring even the toughest person to tears. Bill was frequently rude to customers as well, and he didn't seem bothered when they said they'd never be back because of his shitty, nasty service. And so, one Saturday morning, I got out of bed, showered, put my bakery smock on, ready to start another day. My 17th birthday was approaching, and my job and living situation were causing me great anxiety. I dealt with it by drinking heavily, especially at night, and this only exacerbated the problem because I always woke up hungover and angry. I arrived at the bakery before 9 a.m. and the place was packed, threw on my apron and started serving customers straight away. But my heart leapt in fear when I heard Bill's voice bellowing for me to stop serving customers and get up to his office immediately. I climbed the narrow wooden staircase to Bill's hidey hole, and I stared at his thunderous face. "You're late," he barked. "No, I'm not," I squeaked. "The roster said 9 a.m. start. It's still only 5 to 9. He studied the roster. "Oh, bugger, yeah, so you do. Oh, I got you mixed up with Rebecca. All right, piss off and go and serve those people. Pies are flying out the door, so make sure there's plenty of spares in the oven." I darted down and threw a heap of assorted pies onto a tray and slid them into the oven, burning the shit out of my wrist. In my panic, I stupidly forgot to put a glove on. The rest of the day passed in a blur of anxiety and fear, and Bill yelled at us girls, berating the sugar delivery man, and he even shouted at his wife, Enid, who'd popped in to do the books. I got home, tore off my work clothes, and changed into my shorts and singlet. Then I poured a huge glass of wine and sat on the porch. Surely there had to be more to life than this. And then my flatmate James emerged. "Oh, you're home. Sorry, but I accidentally opened this," he said, passing me a letter. Before I could put my glass down, he added, "It's just from your doctor's surgery. You're due for your pap smear, that's all." Then he turned and walked inside, picking his undies out of his ass crack. I wanted to call him back and have a chat. I wanted to yell and scream and vent my frustration, but I couldn't. I didn't have the guts or the energy, so I sat and drank and said nothing. Sunday, a little quieter than Saturdays, Bill's wife entered the back door of the bakery with a grin on her face. "Come and have a look at this, girl," she said. Surprised, Rebecca, Sonia and I dropped our tea towels and followed Enid outside. There, in the car park, was a brand new Mercedes. Oh, it's our 40th wedding anniversary today, and Bill bought this. Isn't she gorgeous? We took turns to hug Enid and congratulate her. She even let us have a go at sitting in the driver's seat and tooting the horn. It was a lovely car. Then Enid said, "Oh, but you see, at the moment only Bill's allowed to drive it. He doesn't trust me with it. He reckons I might reverse into the letterbox or something. And he went mad at me yesterday because I parked it under the tree at home and some leaves landed on it." Monday arrived and it was surprisingly a good day because Bill left at 10 a.m. after finishing the baking. Later that afternoon, I was creaming the donuts when he burst through the back door, his fat face flushed. "You!" he bellowed, pointing his finger at me. "Upstairs, now!" Panic rose in my gut. I climbed the stairs. "There's something amiss with the weekend takings," Bill said. "I counted the money over and over, and Enid has too. We're about $80 short. You were the last one here on Sunday, and you did the money." "I know," I said. "And my figures are perfect. They added up twice, and I locked everything in the safe." He didn't say as much, but I knew Bill suspected me of stealing money. But from somewhere, nowhere really, my voice emerged, and I found myself saying, "Look, Bill, if you don't trust me, I can't work for you anymore. Now tell me straight, do I work here or don't I?" He was taken aback and so was I. I'd never had the courage to assert myself to him before. Something was changing. "I never said I didn't trust you, but let's just say I'll be watching you like a hawk from now on." I finished my shift and drove home, wanting nothing more than to drink myself into a stupor. I barged through the door and came face to face with James. Before he could say anything, I shouted, "Get the fuck out of my way!" and shoved him aside. "Whoa, fuck, calm down, woman." He said, "I mean, you know, I know you got your period and all that, but you don't have to take your shit out on me." What the fuck would you know about my body, my periods, or my fucking life? Oh, well, see, I put the Hoover through today, right? And when I was in your bathroom, I saw empty tampon wrappers in the bin. And I made a mental note to stay out of your way. Anyway, right, I'm going round to Keith's for a couple of beers. You can bolt the door, I've got my keys. Oh, and don't forget to book that pap smear. I looked at the clock, 4 p.m. So I chucked on my jeans and walked down to the corner butcher. "G'day, love, what can I get you?" "Look, I know this is an odd request, but you don't happen to have any old kidneys lying around, do you?" For as long as I live, I will never forget that butcher's response. "Yeah, oh, I think I got a few out the back because I haven't made the sausages yet." "Hang on, I'll go and have a look." I haven't eaten sausages since, seriously. So I walked home with a dozen stinking pig's kidneys wrapped in newspaper tucked under my arm. After dark, and armed with said kidneys and a bit of Dutch courage from me old mate Captain Morgan, I parked my car a few streets away from Bill and Edna's house. I tiptoed through the shadows, and there it was, the new Mercedes in the carport, covered with an elasticated tarp. I knew a bit about cars, having once dated a mechanic. Therefore, I had no trouble slipping beneath the vehicle and using plastic cable ties to attach the rotten kidneys to the exhaust manifold. And because I don't do things half-assed, I slid my upper half under the tarp, my jumper running across the freshly waxed bonnet, and emptied a bit of sardine oil into the air conditioning vents. And you know, from that moment on, things started working in my favour. Later in the week, Bill sacked me. Well, not exactly. Something about money being tight and not enough hours for me. So I left graciously with a bit of holiday pay and my pride intact. On the way home, I stopped at the shops and I bumped into Nikki, an old friend. She'd recently broken up with her boyfriend, and by the end of the conversation, she'd offered to rent me the spare room at her place. I went straight home, gave my notice to James, and started packing. As I loaded my meagre belongings into old shit paper cartons, I smiled. I had a new place to move to, and my arsehole ex-boss was now driving a Merc with odours alternating between a horse garret and hot piss. But in keeping with my kind nature, I left a parting gift for James too. I replaced his contact lens solution with shampoo. Then I snuck into his bedside drawers and replaced his KY jelly with deep heat. I was going to prick some holes in his condoms too, but look, I'm not that much of a bitch. And in case you're all wondering, my pap smear results came back normal. All's well that ends well.